This is a super beefy topic that we're going to go over today. So I kind of want to prep you in advance. You're going to be drinking from a fire hose over the next hour. So I think the best way to do it is to let me get through a segment and then we open it up for Q&A as we go. In order to get through all the material, we may have to, bear with me, be patient. We might have to cut off Q&A and put socket on the end because there's so much to go over. So it's really important to me that I kind of give you an aerial view and we go through everything we need to go through on this very important topic. And then if we need to come back, I want to give you some scripts. There's just some really important things. If we need to come back, we will. And if we need some one-on-one time, we can do that too. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So just jot your questions down in a parking lot, just kind of keep notes of any questions. And they might start making sense too as we go through it too. Sometimes they get answered. Okay, are you ready? This is a lot. The first question is, who here is not dealing with multiple offers in some shape or form? And the answer is, I don't think anyone here is going to raise their hand. Even if you're a brand new agent, you've never written a deal, you are hearing about it. You're having to have conversations about it. Like, this is everything right now, right? So we're going to talk about, let me switch this over. You can see that, right? Can you see that? You can see my slide. Oh, perfect. All right. We're going to talk about, strengthening your odds of winning. And I want to break this down into 3 segments. Okay, 3 segments. Number 1, setting expectations with buyers. How can you get buyers to do what they have to do in this market? This is a super important topic. I would argue the most important, because structuring your offer is, I think this is the most important topic, number 1, especially for our newer agents here. How on earth do you get somebody to waive everything and release earnest money to a seller if you haven't sold a home before, right? I mean, these are real topics that I think are very, very relevant that aren't getting talked about a lot. Number 2, how do you structure the offer? What are some tips? And again, your local market center masterminds, your local brokers can definitely help fill in some of that too, but we're going to do a nice overview of that. And number 3, how do you negotiate with a listing agent? Again, especially with you newer agents, I want to talk to you about how to communicate best with them. What's too much communication? What's not enough? What makes you look like a rookie? What makes you look like you know what you're doing? These are the things, setting you up for success with all this. So those are the 3 sections. All right. You ready? Your marker, set, go. All right. Okay. So as we go through these elements, I don't want you to necessarily think about them as separate things. They are separate things, but almost every offer that you put in that's going to win in a multiple offer situation is going to have an element of everything in it. It is not just one of these things. So you have to really take them all together as a meal, not as an a la carte menu. I just made that up. That was pretty good. I like that. I'm going to use that analogy again, I think, in the future. Pretty good. All right, because it's food related. That's why it just came into my head. I also want to just kind of preface this. I didn't really know where to put this, so I just kind of stuck it up front. But I hear this a lot. In fact, I just heard it with an award-winning buyer's agent, and I was like, ooh, be careful with your language. Your words matter. I hear a lot of agents talk to their buyers or talk to each other about paying, quote, over market value for a home. Have you ever found yourself thinking that or saying that out loud? Remember, it's not market value, it's list price. Since when is list price market value? Right? Does anyone here know the definition of market value? No? No one? No one here knows the definition of market value?
It's the price that,
for the property.
Yeah, on the open market at an arm's length transaction, without any extenuating circumstances. Like,
you want the VIA definition? It's a little more fun.
What a willing buyer and a willing seller are willing to pay.
Okay, yeah, Alita, but I have a better definition.
Okay.
That's the real one, by the way. Let's be real, you were right. It's when a seller thinks they have not gotten enough and a buyer thinks they've paid too much. You've hit market value. No one's happy. No, I'm kidding. Totally. I'm actually not
good
at all. But no one's quite there. That's actually probably when you hit it. But a buyer truly kind of sets market value, and a seller does to a certain extent, because the seller has to be willing to part with the asset at a certain price, right? And when those two come together in a free market, that's market value. So I ask you, is list price market value? You know what list price is, guys? Think about, this is all one big negotiation. And what is the number one rule in negotiation? Who throws out the first dollar amount? Do they win or do they lose? When you're in negotiation training, the person who throws out the first number, do they typically win or lose in the negotiation? They typically lose. So if you're ever negotiating, you want the other person to throw out the first number. That's a good little tidbit for life, I think. So if you think about list price is the seller is actually throwing out the first number. That's all list price is. We should just be careful with our language and not call list price market value, right? Because I think that that's sometimes, by the way, are our buyers paying over market value? Yeah, the answer is yeah, but it has really nothing to do with list price, right? List price is, you're just trying to get it in the center of that target. We're actually going to do a CMA training a little later, and we're going to talk about that price target. That's how I describe it to my sellers. All right. Language matters. So it goes without saying, you know, you really in this market, you need a copy of their pre-approval letter before you look at houses. I just want to go a little bit further. And I think that you need a pretty clear understanding of their lender and their situation as well. One of the scripts I use a lot with my buyers is, you know, one of us has to have the relationship with the lender. Either you have a long-standing relationship with them or I do. And if you don't have that, then I prefer you to go with mine. You know, you have every right to shop around, but it's going to help me sell your offer better if I have the assurance that my lender has given you a pre-approval. It's going to increase our chances of winning. So I do a really good job directing to my own lender, and I always have, because it's true. It's just true. I trust my lender. If they've run them through the pre-approval process, I just have complete faith they're going to close. And I also have faith if they have a long-time lender that they've worked with a long time. I've had a conversation. One of us has to have a relationship. What doesn't work for me in this market is someone going into Quicken Loans where I have no other barometer for them to go. I'm very uncomfortable with someone that none of us have a relationship with, right? Unless maybe they've done 5 loans with them and they have a loan officer there. That might be a little different, right? So hopefully this all makes sense. I know you guys will stop me if it really doesn't make sense, right? All right. To me, this is the probably the most important thing we're going to talk about. And I'm pulling up my notes right now because I'm going to read you an incredible script. So we do these webinars every Wednesday at noon. And if you guys aren't attending those, I really encourage you to. Ben Kinney's going to come on this coming Wednesday and talk about all the ways his teams are getting listings right now. They've gotten hundreds of listings this year. Every single one of those webinars is highly tactical and designed to give you news you can use right away. So I don't remember how long ago it was. We had this incredible buyer's agent on out of Florida. She's just a rock star. And I had the opportunity to talk with her yesterday because she was so good. I'm bringing her on again. Really happy about that. 2 or 3 weeks from now, she's going to come on and go through some of what we're going to go through today, how she's winning so many offers. I actually have a bunch of buyer's agents that I'm lining up. You guys, you're going to die. I have the best lineup coming up on that webinar over the next 2 months. She taught me this script, and then I heard it again yesterday from someone else, and it was so good, and I reminded myself how good it was. I wanted to teach it to you guys. We will send you the transcript, so all of you registered on Zoom, so we can send you that transcript. But it's the ABC script, and I'm actually going to read it because it's not a script that I've memorized or internalized, but oh my gosh, do I love this script. And this is how a bunch of people around the country are kind of getting their clients prepared for this market and managing their expectations and building them up to get to the point where they waive everything. And the script goes like this. I'm staring at Lena, so I'm just going to role play with you. We're just going to role play together. Well, hey, Lena, thank you so much for kind of sharing your wants and needs with me. That's great. It sounds like, just to summarize, in a perfect world, you'd spend $500,000 and you'd have a 4-bedroom craftsman home for around maybe 2,500 square feet. Is that right?
Sounds perfect.
Cool. That's great. So, Lena, every single buyer falls into one of these three categories, and I'm going to draw these boxes. Most of these buyer's agents describe drawing these boxes, right on the piece of paper. A, B, or C, and I tried to do it my own really cheesy, horrible way in the slide. So, there you go. So it's an A box, a B box, and a C box. Lena, every single buyer falls into one of these categories. So box A, box B, or box C. Box C buyers are buyers who don't have to buy, but they would like to buy if the right house comes along. They want to buy, but they don't necessarily need to buy. Box B buyers want to buy a house and need to buy a home, but they don't want to overpay and they really want to make sure they're getting a good deal. Box A buyers are buyers who absolutely need to buy within a timeline and are willing to do whatever it takes, whether that's going in, well over list price, waiving inspection, financing, appraisal, whatever it takes to buy a home. What type of buyer would you say you are?
Probably an A buyer.
So can I just, sorry, we didn't prep for this.
What do you want me to pick?
Almost all of them say B, guys. That's what all these buyer's agents are telling me. So we'll have to report back and see if any of you guys use this script. What they're saying is almost everyone says B.
They want to buy.
My buyers say they don't want to overpay, they want a value, but they're a little bit more motivated than a C. But I don't know. I rarely have people saying they're A up front, even though I haven't used the script, but I'm just looking back. But let's say B though, since that's
okay.
Okay. Well, that's great. Lena, would it offend you if I was, super transparent with you and direct with you about this market that we're in?
No, I'd love it.
It'd be great. So can I tell you what's going on right now in this market with regards to these boxes? So I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to put a little roof over the A box and I'm going to start putting a whole bunch of dots, like 10 dots in that box. So Lena, each of these dots represents an offer coming in on this house. And every single one of these buyers are A buyers. Every single one of these dots are A buyers. They are all coming in literally with no contingencies, waiving almost everything, paying well over asking price, sometimes even willing to pay over market value. And that's how they're getting the house. That's great that you're a B buyer. I totally understand. But the reality of the market that we're in now and what the comps are saying is that we're in an A plus market. You need to be an A buyer to get a house in this market. So my question is, what's it going to take for you to be a box A buyer?
I don't know. What's it going to take? You tell me.
Okay. So we're going to walk through that right now. So the goal here is to get your buyers to choose. So number one, the trick of that script is your buyers are identifying themselves as ABC. Very important that you're not doing it, that they're doing it, right? Number two, we now want to roll into them, helping them self-discover if they either have to lower the expectations of what they want in the market, or that it may not be the right time to buy, which I know you all don't want to hear. So the conjunction to that is this script. So then we move into this brilliant script. And again, I've never used these scripts. I just heard him yesterday and went so crazy. I was like tracking him down. It was on a little private mastermind I was invited to, and they're both of these agents are going to come on do one of our Wednesday webinars soon. So basically, so Lena, yeah, I know that you want to be a buyer and you're kind of struggling with what that looks like. It's interesting. You can see this chart that I'm going to draw for you here, and it's a pie, and it's in 3 segments. And in these 3 segments, we have location, style of home, and price. And in some parts of the country, I know you're coming here from Michigan. In Michigan, you probably get all 3 of these, right? You get a prime location, a great style of home, and at a great price, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're from? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in our area, it's realistic to only pick 1 or 2. That's just kind of the reality of our market here. So for instance, Lena, I know that your budget's 500 and you really wanted Central Seattle, right? We've been talking a lot about it. You love that area. And we could totally do that for you, but it would be a condo, right? And so your style of home, would be different, but we could get you location and price. It would just, we would have to, make some changes on style of home. If for instance, you absolutely need that 4-bedroom, 2,500 square foot craftsman single family home that we talked about that you ideally wanted, with a yard, and that's your budget, we can absolutely get that for you. We probably need to talk about like Kent, Marysville, Arlington, some other areas where that's going to be more realistic. So my question for you, Lena, is which segments of the pie chart are you willing to compromise on?
I think that I am willing to compromise on maybe the style.
Okay, so you're open to looking perhaps at some condos in that price range in the locations in the central Seattle.
Yeah, I really like that area, and my budget's my budget.
Yeah, for sure. What I find, guys, is that most people actually compromise on, they will move out. I find, if they want a single family home, that most likely they'll start adding to their commute. I don't know what you all find for those experienced agents here. I find most of the time, or there's a happy medium, but if they have 3 or 4 kids, they probably can't compromise too much on the style of home. So they start getting used to, changing location on that. So I think that, when we talk about setting up the field and how do you get a buyer to kind of come in ahead of time and waive all of this, walking them through a path of self-discovery, I think is a really, really important part of this process. So I love, love, love these 2 scripts. So the thing that I do, the next thing is something that I do that I have a lot of experience with, and that is I'm hoping you guys can all learn how to pull sales price to list price ratios on either the MLS or Trend Graphics. And I'm going to stop my share for a second because I'm going to pull up what I show my clients when I feel like they need to see it visually. Sometimes just for the record, I just do it verbally. It kind of just depends on my relationship with the client. So I'm just pulling these up right now. Okay, so we talk about sales price to list price. Do you guys know what that means? Does anyone here know?
Yes, yes. Is that, sorry, my video. Is that sort of the variance of what someone's paying? You have the list price and the sale price. So for example, right now it's 106%. People are paying 106% of the list price, and whereas the last 5-year average, they were paying 100% or 98%.
That is the perfect explanation, Sean. Yes, and by the way, you guys, Sean, I just want you to know, Sean literally emails us and gives us weekly updates ever since we started L3, and I'm so grateful for you, Sean, because it makes this all worth it. When I can hear from you guys, it means a lot. Thanks for doing that.
Okay.
That's exactly what it means. You can see this is Trend Graphics. It doesn't matter how you pull the data, by the way, guys. You can do a 1-line CMA on the MLS. This is right here. This is King County. I just pulled it randomly. That's King County. And this shows that, across all price points, all products in King County, the blended average is about 104% sales price to list price, right? Okay, so what I want to kind of show you is the more detail you go, I'm going to pull this guy up. I just pulled a fun one. I pulled Ballard for us. That usually does pretty well. And the more specific you go, and you can see here, I pulled a zip code, right? The more specific you go, usually the more dramatic that number is if it's a hot area. So 104% would be a blended average over all of King County. It's going to be a little bit watered down. So the more specific you go, the bigger that number is. I would also urge you, and I didn't have time to pull it, in the very hot price zones, like if you're, oh my gosh, like if you're in Bothell, this would be a fun one to pull. If you're in Bothell and you want to do like 600,000 to 800,000 in Bothell, I think it'll be 114%. Like, you know what I mean? Most of the listings I'm seeing are going up to 20% over list price. So choose your area and your price bands carefully when you're looking at averages, so that when you show them to your clients, you need to mentally get them kind of prepared to accept that reality. And you need to show them the data so that you're leaning on the data to tell the story, not you. Does that make sense? I find when I pull the charts, it's not via bad guy kind of saying like, you're going to have to overpay, because then the psychological translation in my mind anyway is like, V is telling us to overpay for a house. But if I can show them the data and say on average, the hundreds and thousands of buyers who are buying in this area, just like you, are paying on average X amount over list price, right? So leaning on the data, especially in these, I think conversations, takes the emotional element out of it, and it kind of doesn't make you the bad guy. It kind of makes the data the bad guy, so to speak. I don't mean to be like, so like there's a bad guy and a good guy, but there's kind of a bad guy and a good guy with this. All right, let me bring it back. Any questions on that while I bring this back? I'm not monitoring chat, by the way, so if Hattie or Lena.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Oh, sorry. So in this scenario, as you're educating and often crushing the dreams or there's
Total
a
dream
disconnect, right, between what
totally.
they think, and I'm going through this with somebody I know, I've found, and I don't have a lot of experience with it, but this particular person, their dreams are getting crushed and they tend to back off and just are like, well, I don't know if we're ready yet. We really need to think about, because it's like what they want on paper is not a possibility today. And so trying to get them to I like that script. So hopefully when we get it, I can try to go back and use that, but just trying to get them to, well, now what? Because I asked the question basically without knowing that script, is the location, they wanted a specific school zone and close to where their kids' friends are. Are you willing to be 10 minutes outside of that where you're just still close to the friends, but if it's a different high school, is that a deal breaker? And it's just, you can tell they're just apprehensive and crushed, I guess.
Anyone else, just raise your hands. I'm going to skim. Anyone else have that issue where you're almost talking buyers out of buying right now? Because it's such a great question, Sean, which I would expect no less, by the way. And okay, so let's have a real talk about that. First of all, actually, I'm going to take this off a minute because this might be more interactive. First of all, I don't have the answer for you. I don't have the answer for you. I don't know that I can even tell you what I think is right in that situation. Having gone through this with buyers, I'm torn. I almost think it's better if 50% pull themselves out because they're not ready to be A buyers. What I say to myself is, I'm not going to go waste hours and hours and hours with them when they're not ready. The reason I'm torn is because I do think that there's probably some logic to getting people into some houses, getting them excited about some houses. They might change to be an A buyer. And I've done this for too long to know that that's what happens. You walk into a, new construction model home, Alex and Heidi, and, if there's an emotional, when they're perfectly, interior designed. And I mean, I know what that's like, they can turn into an A buyer. Like, I want this house now. And by the way, Mainview Homes is having an average of 3.5 to 4.5 offers per lot release new construction pre-sale right now. So they are not immune. New construction homes are not immune. Everything we're talking about now, it's the same thing, guys. It doesn't matter anymore. Back in the day, it would have been like, well, then there's new construction and then there's everything else. It's happening everywhere. So, Sean, that's the question. Are we over coaching? Are we potentially coaching our buyers out of buying a home? And I think where I lie with that is, by the way, my sales style, I view myself as a coach. Maybe we should talk about that a little bit. I don't view myself quite as a teacher. I don't view myself as a salesperson. I view myself as their coach. And I'm constantly seeking to get them to self-discover what they want out of this process, whether it's selling or buying, and then to coach them through what they need to do to achieve the goals they stated to me. I'll let that sink in a minute. It just like any leadership thing, right? I don't treat my clients any differently than I would treat you guys. If I've ever done a coaching session with any of you, as many people here have coached, it's how I coach. Let's unpeel the onion and get to your goals. And then when you tell me what your goals really are, I'm just going to help you self-discover the best way to hit them, right? So I don't know, Sean, anyone here have any thoughts on that before we move on about should we talk buyers out of this? Are there pros and cons to that? It's a really great topic. I think it's worth a couple minutes.
Do you think it's good for them to realize the realities that will be there, whether I told them or not? It's whether you kind of get slapped in the face with it when you kind of go out there and look. And I think they do. I think they probably will reevaluate. It'll probably be a weekend or 2 weeks, and they probably then breathe and come back. Because I did the MLS search and
Sean, your audio is super
up
tough.
The criteria you're giving me in that area. So, sorry, say that again.
Your audio is super tough, my friend. It's hard to understand.
I think I'm frozen.
Here's the other thing. I don't know if anyone here wants to weigh in on this, but oftentimes you bring a client out and they make one or two offers and they lose and they turn into an A buyer. So it kind of depends. I think that some of this is kind of weighing your personal time. If you're a new agent, first of all, their needs are more important than our needs. And we want to put our client first. And if you're a new agent, this is really good practice. Like I would say, what else are you doing? Like besides going and representing buyers and making offers and getting good at it, I don't see anything wrong with that. But if you're really busy and you have competing priorities and, you're trying to run a business, you have to ask yourself, how long is it worth it? One of the best things you can do, and again, managing expectations is going to solve 99% of your problems in real estate. You should write that down. Managing expectations will solve 99.9, let's add 0.9% of your problems in real estate. So let's talk about that. What can that look like here, Sean and everybody? If you're in a buyer consult and you do the ABC script and they might be self-selecting out, you might want to say, Lena, I think this is what we should do. I get that it's confusing. I wanted to be transparent so that you know what you're walking into. Would it be okay? Why don't we go and see some houses together this weekend? Okay, you're pre-approved, you're ready to go. Your price range is 700. I would recommend that we look at, no higher. Oh, sorry, 500. My bad. 500. I would recommend we look at list prices no higher than 425. Let's just go out and look, get a feel for what you could potentially get. And, Lena, we can just kind of make some decisions after that. I'm going to watch your body language really closely. Often I know when my clients have found the right home before they do. I can read them pretty well once we've gone on 3 or 4 houses together. And let's go through this process a little bit before you decide, So you can have that kind of a conversation if you felt like you want to keep that business for a while. Okay. Good conversation though. Thanks for bringing that up, Sean. Something for you guys to think about though, that's a very real question. So however you're going to pull sales price to list price, it doesn't really matter what it looks like. The fact of the matter is that we're leaning on the data. The last thing I wanted to add that I don't have a slide for is the regroup conversation and the regroup script. So when we talk about managing expectations at the buyer consult, when we're going through all this, how I would probably have tied that soft close with Lena with a bow. If I said, hey, Lena, why don't we do this? Why don't we go out and see some homes this weekend and see how we feel? What I would probably say is, Lena, I know you're on the cusp. You're kind of on the cusp between a B and an A buyer. Let's go look at some houses and whatever. And if you see one you like and we make an offer and we don't get that house, we're going to regroup. We're going to get together on Zoom. We're going to, have coffee, whatever you guys are comfortable with. And we're going to regroup. And we're going to see, if you feel like you want to kind of change the game a little bit, become an A buyer, if you want to stay in that B zone, and we're going to make a decision then. Here's the regroup script. Here's what's important. Train your clients up front that you are going to regroup if you don't get that first house. Don't let them lead you with the leash. You are leading this, right? Be a leader. So it's really important that you tell them, if we don't get a house, I never want to make this call again, Lena. If I'm calling you and I said, Lena, we didn't get it. We didn't get the house. I don't want to make this call again. So like we said up front, I would like to regroup, kind of reestablish where we're looking, what we're looking at, and let's just go through this again. Do you have 15 minutes after dinner tonight or whatever, right? And you're kind of reiterating what are their wants, what are their needs. You're kind of thinking in your head, what's their motivation. So I don't want our clients to get trained to go write 10 offers. They will do that, guys. They will do that. So what you want to do is you kind of want to train your clients that, oh no, if we don't get a house, we're regrouping. I mean, it's a subconscious way of saying, I might do this 2, maybe 3 times, but I ain't doing it 10. Because too many agents that I see they're just getting, their clients are leading them by the leash and they're just writing all these offers, and the clients are almost addicted to writing offers. They're B buyers in an A market, right? They're B buyers in an A market. All right. The last, let me just make sure I didn't miss it. Any questions while I just skim and make sure I didn't miss anything on section 1? Is this helpful, first of all? Is this good? Okay, I can see some headings. All right. Okay, good.
I think the setting the expectations is the most important. That covers so much of it.
Oh, do you want a little bit more specifics on the regroup script? I'm just looking at my notes. I can go one more minute on that. This might be helpful. So, you know, for those times where our clients lose that first offer, it's not always horrible if they lose their first offer, because that is often what kicks them to go from a B to an A. I'm just looking at my notes. Some of the things you can do is, you know, you can say, especially at the first loss, you know, all right, so, you know, Lena, what did we not do correctly to secure this home? Knowing what we know is they went in substantially higher than us. We don't know the price yet, but the listing agent said substantially higher. We know that they released earnest money to the seller, right? And we know that they waived their appraisal. So those are the data points we know. So that's probably what we didn't do correctly to secure this home. How do you feel about that? Are you okay with that?
Bummed out.
Yeah, you're bummed out.
I learned my lesson.
In retrospect, do you wish we would have gone 50K higher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because that would have only been X amount more a month. So I probably could have done it.
Okay. So this is what I promised you, Lena. What I promised you going forward is that I will be completely honest with you as to how much I think a property is going to sell for, just like I was with this one. And it's always up to you to make that decision, but I'm not going to hold back. If I think a property is going to go for a certain amount, I will always tell you. And so, you know, knowing what we know, do you think we should change our search parameters at all? Do you think we should broaden our geography? Do you think we should broaden our, you know, is there anything you think we should change?
Yeah, I guess we could expand out a little more.
Okay, expand out a little more. Okay, all right. Are you comfortable with the budget? I know that, you know, your budget was 500. I know your lender said you could go up to 650. I just want to kind of do a gut check on that.
Yeah. I just wanted my payments to stay lower, but I guess we could go a little bit higher.
Did your lender run the difference in payments between 500 and 550 for you?
No, I guess I can ask him to do that.
Yeah, and that's something we can also do right now. We have a mortgage. By the way, you guys, BKCO has a mortgage calculator. It's really great on the app. I don't have the. I'll have to send it out to you. I don't know how to do. I have it on my thing, but I've used that before. Well, that's awesome, Lena. So I'm glad we regrouped. I don't ever want to make this call again. So it's my intention that the next time you find a house you like, we're going to get. Okay. All right. Now, second loss. If you've gone through a second loss, the conversation might be a little more pointed. It might be like, okay, time out. So, Lena, I think we need to really regroup now. We're not going to keep, you know, looking at properties we can't secure. So, what I kind of want to get from you is, do we want to lower the price point that we're looking at, or do you want to expand the geographic area that we're looking at? Do we want to talk about, would you be willing to do a townhome, you know, instead of a detached single family? I just really want to regroup and see what we can change, because I really don't want to make this call again. And then we might go into that. Okay. All right. Good. Cool. Okay. So that was all kind of setting expectations of buyers. Again, I would argue that's the most important thing. I'm going to skim over. It's going to sound weird. You probably came into this thinking I was going to spend the most time on how to actually structure the offer. We're going to spend time on it. I also feel like Janine, Eric, all of our brokers do a pretty good job of teaching this stuff. And I know that in your monthly sales meetings, I've asked the team leaders to do more and more, like have panels. And so hopefully what's happening in your weekly meetings is your top buyers agents in your offices are kind of walking through what they're doing right now to win offers. And I'll make sure the team leaders are doing that, you know. So as a reminder, every Tuesday at 11, you have a meeting. And I'd like all of you to just put those in your calendars. The first and the third Tuesdays of the month, those are with your market center. The second and the fourth Tuesdays of the month, those are with all of us combined. Those are my fave because I do them, but you know, we have Linda McKissick coming. She's really great. So, you know, in your local ones, you know, you're going to get a lot of this over the next few months. Same thing with listing tactics. First thing is an escalation clause. So I don't know if you guys know this, but many markets around the US do not use escalation clauses. Has anyone here practiced real estate in another state and you came here and you're like, what the heck is this? I'm looking around. No, no. I just noticed there's a lot of people off camera. Come on camera. We won't bite. Well, escalation clauses, I'm going to work under the assumption you all know what they are. How I explain them to a client is, so Lena, have you heard of escalation clauses? And this is me in role play. Have you heard of escalation clauses?
A little bit.
Yeah. And by the way, most of them have heard of them. Most of them know. They're talking to their friends by now because they're looking for a home. They go, yeah. I'm sure you've heard about them. So have you ever purchased anything on eBay, Lena?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So you know how you're going to buy something and you set a limit of say $100 and you say, hey, I'm going to beat a bid by say $5, but up until it gets to 100 and I'm not willing to pay any more than $100.
Oh, yeah.
So I call escalation clauses kind of like the eBay clause. You're setting a top limit as to how much you're going to pay. And then you're kind of making a decision, as to what that increment is that you want to beat the other offer by, right? So usually that makes sense. Not everybody buys on eBay, so they don't all get that. But if they don't buy on eBay, can you guys see that still or no?
Yeah.
You can still see it?
Your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good, because I moved it up to my other screen so I could stare at it better. Well, I say silent auction. If they haven't, if they're not an eBay person, I say silent auction. You don't have to use that analogy.
They're really good analogies, though.
Yeah, I just, you lean on what scripts. We all talk in scripts. So my advice to you guys, probably the biggest thing I see being a listing agent, predominantly in my career, I've been a stronger listing agent. So I've been the recipient of, a ton of multiple offers. The biggest mistake I see is a buyer's agent will come in with like a $1,000 interval increment, or like depends on the price point, even a $2,000 increment. It's not worth it. It's irrelevant. I mean, it's not irrelevant. The top number it's going to make me call them back potentially, but it's not going to get us a signed around deal. So if you're really serious about getting to sign that deal in the offer review section, you want a bigger increment. So I have, I'll be honest, I just kind of tell my buyers what I think the increment should be. And, again, it depends on the list price, but usually in my world, ideally it's in that $5,000 to $10,000 point, which is probably higher than a lot of you were thinking or have done. I get that. But I think that you should think differently here. I think you should think differently because as a listing agent, we're really weighing the strength of the buyer. In fact, the script I use with my buyers all the time is they go, why does it matter when we get to waiving and financing? Has anyone here had a buyer say, and you can just, if you're off video, you can just use the little reaction. If you guys had a buyer say, why do they care how much my down payment is? It's all cash at the end. Who here has had that? Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm like, someone's had that because they all say that. Oh, Christina, hi. So gosh, we have some amazing agents on here that are not new. That's awesome. Christina Loper's here from Tacoma. She's a great agent in Tacoma, guys. Okay, so here's the deal. And this is really important for you to impart to your buyers, super important. A listing agent and a seller, if price is about the same, they are looking for the least risk averse buyer. Let me put that in English. They want that thing to close. So at a certain point, when you're all around the same price, the only thing left is who has the fewest amount of reasons for this not to close. So by waiving everything, it eliminates the risk and it makes them the safest buyer, and that's who wins. That's who wins. So it's a risk averse decision. Now, price has to be pretty much right. But I'll tell you what, if this is, a $600,000, $800,000 home, $5,000 is not that relevant. I know that sounds crazy if you're newer. It's just real estate money. You kind of have to get used to talking about it like it's monopoly money. But think about it. At an $800,000 home, if I have a cash buyer at 800, well, it's probably 850. and I have a finance buyer at 855, who am I going to choose? Who are you going to choose if you're the seller? Honestly, guys, the number one reason a real estate deal fails is financing, by the time we get through inspection. So it makes complete sense. Like whenever my buyers ask me that, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you asked me. So when you get to escalation clause, you have to really make that delta really as wide as you can, because I'll tell you what, 10,000, 15,000, that starts making a difference. That might be worth a $10,000 or $15,000 risk if I'm talking an $800,000 home. Yeah.
Christina Loper wrote in the chat, can you quickly touch on how VA no down to a lot of risk issue?
Christina, oh my gosh, this is a huge topic with me right now. Okay. We're not there in the slide, so we're just going to pre-cover that. All of us working with VA buyers, it is one of the toughest parts of this market. These amazing people have served our country, and I honor that higher than almost anything. And it's almost impossible for them to win right now. And I don't have an answer, Christina. I think I don't have an answer for you. I don't have an answer for me. I am concerned about it. I don't know what to say. The VA appraisals are tougher. They take longer. There's nothing benefits a VA buyer in this market. And I'm finding those are very challenging conversations, because you become, it's like they want to shoot the messenger a little bit, like you become the bad guy in a way for being the person to tell them that it's going to be tough. Are you experiencing that at all, Christina?
Yeah, I am. I guess when you said it's about down payment and people wanting and risk aversion, that there are some VA people who are like so solid beyond somebody who's got a lot more money down, that the down payment is not the only indicator, depending on the loan type. So just because it's a VA does not mean that they don't have a down payment, doesn't mean that they're not a risky thing. But it's so hard right now.
It's so hard. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And, please jump in when we talk about negotiating with the listing agent and kind of, all of that, that's, I think, probably more where that comes in, is sort of selling your client. But let's be honest. Okay. Let's just be honest. Let's have a real conversation amongst agents right now. $600,000 home, last two, the top two offers are $650,000, and one is putting, 25% down conventional with a 25-day close with a lender, and one's VA, who we all know who the seller is most likely going to choose, whether we can pretend or not.
I totally agree. I guess if there's newer agents on here, I want to make sure that they understand that these circumstances, that's the case, but no down payment with a VA loan does not necessarily mean that the person's more of a risk. So I just want to make that clarification and point that out. So, and
I'm so glad
there's dogs running at me. I'm going to turn my camera off again.
I'm so glad you're here, though. Thank you for weighing in on that. Yeah, she's absolutely right. I did not mean to imply that, because that's a tough one for me right now too. Okay, it goes without saying, but I don't assume anything. We're talking about like how to structure your offer. After escalation clauses, like pay more. Like I don't know what else to say. Pay more money. We talked about it earlier because it was so important to me. Market value isn't list price. List price is just their first toss out in the negotiation that we're playing, right? So, prep your clients ahead of time. Preparation will solve almost anything, A, B, C, and make sure that they're clear that if their budget is, if they're looking in Bellingham and their budget's, 400, you probably should be capping that search at 325 to 350, whatever that number is, right? And that because you've looked at the sales price to list price in that very specific price point and area. Remember to add price point in on that. And you've shared that with them, All right, so waiving inspection. As real estate agents, certainly as your general manager, I want to tell you publicly, all buyers should inspect all properties that they are purchasing. With that said, I'm seeing more and more that the seller is providing very solid third-party verified pre-inspections. I'll leave that to you using your discretion. I have complete faith in those if I know who the inspector is. I think that's a great way to go. I encourage my buyers to utilize those, I do, and again, I don't want to be the official. Janine Wood, our director of compliance, is in Hawaii, so maybe I'm talking a little more freely because she's not here to like stop me. But I do, if, as long as I have comfort in the inspector. The other thing you can do is pay an inspector to come do a verbal pre-inspection where your buyers are paying for the inspection ahead of time before they even write the offer. So briefly, because I feel like this is talked about enough, you probably don't need to go into too much detail on this, but briefly for me anyway, again, it all goes back to preparation, managing expectations and preparation. What I do at the buyer consult is when I get to the point, where we've decided they're an A buyer. I haven't used the ABC buyer script, but I've effectively done that before. That's kind of how I do it. And we're getting to the segment. What I basically prep my buyers on is I say, and they say, what does that mean? And I say, what it means is, let me translate that for you, Lena. Are you willing to set, $1,200 aside to invest in this process? And the reason I say that is, if we do a verbal pre-inspection and they're, $300 or $350 based on the type of product we're looking at, that budget's for 2 or 3 of them, And I would argue that it's money well spent for a huge purchase, probably your biggest asset that you're going to have, right? If you're not comfortable with that, I honor that. You and I are partners. I'm gonna back you up no matter what you decide. It just means that I might cancel you to not write some offers because I'm not really comfortable advising you to waive inspection without having one, right? And if the seller doesn't have one, that's going to put us in a position of, of me not being comfortable having you waive an inspection. And there's probably going to be no point in writing an offer in a lot of cases unless we do waive it. What are your thoughts on that, Lena?
I'm responding to people in the chat.
Oh, sorry. I was role playing with you. Don't worry about it. Okay, it's fine then.
No, so Rhonda Smith was asking, what is the advantage to the seller to have the home inspected in advance?
I love them.
And then Eric had said, can you counter 0 down but use a higher earnest money?
Yep, because you can get earnest money back for VA. Yep. And the other thing that Coleman said, which I actually used with my buyer that same day, we had Coleman, loan officer BKCO mortgage on. I thought it was so smart. He said, a lot of times VA, Christina, I don't know if you want to weigh in, they have down payment. They just don't want to use it, which I don't blame him. Money's cheap right now. His comment that he's done a few times is they can come in, I like the little thumbs up. They can come in with a conventional loan and then they can do a VA cash out refinance and pay themselves back for the down payment. So I haven't looked into that or verified it, but it sounded pretty cool, like a pretty cool workaround where you could use the VA credit and effectively have a VA mortgage on the property. Okay, really quick, let's talk about.
I was trying to respond to people too. I didn't realize I was role playing.
You're not. I'm just answering that.
Okay.
You're off the hook.
Okay.
You can go back and I'm not even looking at chat. Just tell me if I need to know anything.
I will.
Seller inspection though, really quick, prepaid seller inspection. I really, really like them and here's why. All of you guys here, many of you experienced agents here have the experience of listing a home and having 4 or 5 buyers poking holes, bringing inspectors in, lifting up carpet. It's just not good on a house to have 4 or 5 inspections on the house. It's just not. And there's a lot of people poking and prodding around. So I've talked to a lot of my sellers about doing this because I'm like, at the end of the day, you want them to waive inspection. It is one of the most stressful and negotiated parts of the transaction. And, as long as they're not all sellers are necessarily candidates for it, but I'm just a huge fan of it because most people use those inspections. It's very rare nowadays that a buyer will do their own pre-inspection if there's a seller provided pre-inspection. Maybe 20% will do their own, because for whatever reason they don't trust it. So I think more and more it's a great way to go. The other way to go that is a little braver. I have to put my listing agent hat on. I'm the fiduciary for my seller when I'm the listing agent. So I'm going to talk out of my listing agent side for a minute. I know we're kind of talking about buyers, but from a listing agent perspective, the other way to go that I have seen some agents do is we're actually not allowing anyone to have a pre-inspection. So you can't really waive inspection. So they kind of enter into the multiple offer situation knowing there's going to be an inspection. I just don't know. I don't know why you do that if you're representing a seller. Like, this is a golden time for sellers where we can get rid of that contingency. And so that's why I actually like to provide seller provided pre-inspections. I like to control them and to have the buyer's agents request them. So I'm keeping track of who I'm sending those to. And before I give free information out, I wouldn't just upload it. I sort of love it when agents just upload it. It makes my life easier. I'm probably not going to make your life easier and do that though. I want to keep a little bit more control, make sure I'm talking to you. So, teach his own.
Can I weigh in really quickly on that?
Yeah.
When you were talking about poking holes in multiple pre-inspections, that if you're a buyer who had the first inspection and you win, but the 5 other inspections have done damage, your pre-inspection may not actually reflect the property that you're buying, and the homeowner is supposed to keep the property in the same shape as when it's purchased. And so people you may not always get what you think you're pre-inspecting.
You are just so right. Gosh,
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
You're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah, you might buy it, and then the next person might come in and like rip up the carpet and discover something or cause damage, and then put the carpet back down, and you won't know because when you did it, it didn't look the same way. So
brilliant, smart. Really, really quick. If you just can't get them to waive, and if maybe there's only going to be a couple offers on the property, you can always do the 1-day pass or fail inspection. So really, really quick, what that means is you already have an inspector lined up. If offer reviews are due, I don't know, Tuesday at 3, and you would find out Tuesday night, you would already have an inspection tentatively lined up for Wednesday. And what you're telling the listing agent is we're not going to show you the inspection. We're not going to ask you to fix anything. It's going to be pass or fail. The only thing we want to do is just make sure the asset we're buying is acceptable. That's it. And sometimes I'll even say, these are what we're looking for. We don't care about this. We don't care about this, but they kind of care about this. We just want to make sure, a house I just made an offer on the other day, they had siding replaced on the whole side of the house. And so I was like, they had previously had LP siding. All we want to do is just do a double quick check, make sure there's no indications of any mold or, anyway, I was really clear about what specifically we were going to look for, and that we weren't going to show them anything. We weren't going to tell them anything. It was just going to be pass or fail very quickly. Why is 1 day important? And I'm going to give you a hint. It has to do with MLS rules. What do you have to do within 24 hours if you're a listing agent and it has to do with changing status? Okay, good. So I'm going to teach you something. When you're the listing agent, you have to change status within 24 hours. So this gives the listing agent a little bit of time to not have it bounce back and flip back out of contract. If you have an inspection literally for 9 a.m. the next morning and they're going to know by noon, then it doesn't have to look like it failed inspection, basically. All right, I know there's a lot we got to keep going, but save your questions up. And I'm not monitoring chat, but we can come back. Let me see if I have anything afterwards. I might be able to. Hattie, do I have anything after this? Can I stay after a little bit? I can stay after a little bit. So if any of you guys have questions and you want to stay after, we can talk about it. All right. Paying cash, we talked about this. We kind of talked ahead of the slide, which is totally fine. Paying a higher down payment or cash. But the important thing for you to know is the reasoning and why this matters, because you'll get that a lot, even if you haven't experienced it, where your buyers will say, well, I don't get it. Like, it's cash. It's all cash at the end of the day. The closing day, right?
The 35E is still on the screen.
Oh, hold on. Give me a second. It's because I moved thank you for telling me. There we go. Can you see it there?
Yep.
Structuring your own. Sorry about that. Yeah, thanks. It was saying, it had a weird error message. I had a feeling something was up. So yeah, paying cash, paying a higher down payment, what I tell my buyers is that to a seller, there's the two big things as to why a deal fails is inspection and financing. If we can eliminate those two uncertainties, we are a very safe offer for them to choose, right? That has to do, by the way, with waiving an appraisal. Appraisal is part of financing. So the higher the down payment, into cash, the more it just takes away, it eliminates a lot of the risk of a transaction. And that's really what a seller's choosing, assuming the price is all basically the same. So that's kind of the script I use with a buyer, because they really don't understand. And it's a valid question. I get why they ask that question. So same thing, right? Increasing down payment can really help. We talked about this a little earlier. So just to gloss over this, they need a relationship, or I need a relationship with the lender. It is harder for me, I find, to really go to bat and do all the things I need to do. Christina brought it up earlier when she was talking about, look, there's a lot of VA buyers that are really strong buyers, even though they're putting zero down. If they get pre-approved through my lender, I have that confidence. I know my lender's telling me they are really good. They are really strong. There's no worries here at all. I can just go in more bold, and I feel I have the courage of my convictions a little bit more. Again, when they come in with Quicken Loans, and I find myself, like, my reputation's on the line in the agent community. Like, am I going to really, I'm a little more uncomfortable with it. And maybe that's not cool of me to admit. I think I'm just being honest, though. I think that it's really important that I can passionately and fervently represent my buyer to a listing agent, right? I can tell, as the listing agent, I can tell who the really good buyer's agents are and who the really solid buyers are. I can tell by the language they use and the things they say that they've spoken with the lender. You can just tell. Any of you guys who have been a listing agent and you hear the same thing over and over, certain things stick out to you. So I don't know. Waiving financing is risky. Here's my comment about this. There have been times, I'm really nervous about this if there's any brokers on here, but I'm just going to tell you my truth. I'm just going to teach this to you, and you can do with it what you want. Sometimes if they're VA or if they're low down payment, let me go back. When someone's waiving financing, what are they actually risking? What are they actually risking? Someone unmute and tell me, what is a buyer actually risking, assuming you check forfeiture of earnest money and not seller's election of remedies?
Their earnest money.
They're really risking. And Lena, what if they put 10% down, 10% earnest money? What are they really risking?
Only 5%.
Only 5% is statutory safe harbor, right? So, at the end of the day, we have that conversation. If they're putting down, if we feel like $5,000 earnest money is ample, in that situation, it might be better to actually waive financing than come in with VA or come in with 3% financing. You have to be very clear that you're still getting financing to the seller, but that you're waiving it. I don't buy that as a listing agent. I'll tell you, on the flip side, if I see someone waiving financing and they say they're getting financing, I ask to see the goods. Because I understand that they're probably hiding behind it, but not all listing agents do that. So sometimes it's actually better to waive financing if it's a low down payment than show your cards and show that it is a low down payment, and you want to do this right. I want you to talk to your brokers, all the disclaimers, all the things, but I'm just kind of giving you some tools in your arsenal. I'm probably going to get in trouble for that one. That's okay. Quick closing date. What's your number one clue that a seller would want a quick closing date? Number one clue, seller would want a quick closing date. Vacant house? Vacant house, yeah. I would argue, I'll say this, even with a very occupied home, most sellers want quick closing, long rent back. The closing date, a lot of times you'll have sellers that say, I want a 3-month closing. They really don't want that. They don't know what they don't know. They're saying that out loud. What they are really wanting is a quick closing and a long rent back. Most people want money in the bank and the security of a closed sale, but they want to stay in their home. So what they say out of their mouth is, I want a long closing. This is more counseling you for a listing. A lot of times you'll have sellers say that. I'd rather actually have a 60-day closing or a 75-day closing. And you're like, okay, and would it be awesome if we can get a 25-day close and get money in the bank and you could live in the house rent-free for 2 months after that? Would that be better and more awesomer? Most of the time they say yes. That's just a little aside. Okay. So what this is remember, it's not just price, it's also terms. Terms can win you the deal. Quick closing, long, free rent back, right? All of these things are the things that can win you the deal. But, oh, here we go. You know, you can tell I haven't looked at the slide deck in a while. All right. Waiving appraisal really briefly, because I really want to move on to number 3, which is negotiating. You guys can talk to your brokers about this, but the bottom line is your buyers are willing and offering to pay a higher down payment if appraisal comes in low. And FYI, they're coming in low right now. I just want to prep you right now. In all counties across the board and all of our brokerages, they are coming in low. So just so you know, you can tell them I said that. Increasing earnest money, super briefly, this is a VIA trick. It's kind of a VIA trademark. If you ever get an offer from me from one of my A buyers, psychologically, I love it when I have buyers that have a lot of money in the bank. I'm the person, I'll do $50,000 earnest money sometimes. I think it is extremely sexy to a seller when a buyer is showing that much upfront commitment. It means nothing. Statutory safe harbor says they're only risk up to 5% of the total transaction cost. I don't care. The bigger the earnest money, the better. It's just a trademark. I actually tell my buyers that. I say, this is my trademark. I believe high earnest monies are really important. And there's a lot of people who disagree with me, and you get to disagree with me, but I'm just teaching you what I've done. All right, really quickly, we can release a portion of earnest money to the seller. It's better if you change the terminology and no longer call it earnest money, that you call it a deposit. Okay, oh, hold on, my slide deck's ending. Hattie, let's see here. Let me just, Hattie? Is Hattie here? The slide deck.
Yes.
I'm just wondering where the rest of the slide deck is on 3.
Yeah, I text you about that.
Oh, sorry. Okay, it's not here. No worries. We'll just go off slide deck.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, totally fine. Oh my gosh, so fine. Okay, here we go. Okay, sorry, no slide deck on this. My bad. Okay, number 3 is negotiating with the listing agent. And if you see me looking here, I'm looking at my notes because I don't have a PowerPoint right now. Okay. Be in great contact with the listing agent from the beginning of the transaction. You are not allowed to ever send an offer to the listing agent without talking to them first, okay? That is the sign of a rookie. Don't do that. Best thing you can do is the farther upstream you can get a hold of the listing agent, the better. As a listing agent, I can tell you most of my strongest buyers are the ones that were waiting for us to come onto the market, and we're the ones that started communicating from the get-go. Those are often the ones that win. It's okay if you came in late. Look, your client was out of town. They come in Sunday night. You see the house Monday morning, and you turn an offer in that day. That's okay too. But then you're explaining it to the listing agent. And my conversation, Lena might go, Lena, they've literally been waiting for this house. I know you've been on the market since Thursday. I talked to your assistant. It sounds like you've had 4 pre-inspections. We would have been that person, except for they were on this huge, important family trip that they've been planning for years. They were literally texting and emailing me from the trip. You were the first appointment we had when they came back. They are so committed to this house. I want you to know they are so committed to this house, even though you haven't heard from us until now. So I'm telling a story. I'm making my buyer appealing and memorable. Why do you guys think it's important for me to share how committed they are to the house?
To stand out above, a sea of offers, there could be a differentiation.
Mm-hmm. So Sean, what else? And I'm going to give you a hint, risk.
Well, yeah, if you're that committed and you're putting up that amount of money, the risk averse part puts them into a less risk category.
The other thing, is you're giving the listing agent a story to tell their sellers. You're giving the listing agent a story. It's a compelling story to tell their sellers. For all of you who haven't sat in that room yet, with your sellers going through multiple offers, that they always ask, why are they buying? What's their story? And we're going to talk about cover letters here in a second. You definitely want the story of your top few offers. Oftentimes when I'm talking to the agents, I'm like, tell me about your buyers. How long have they been looking? How many houses have they lost out on? I want to have a little bit more of a well-rounded story, because early on in my career, I was caught a little bit off guard where I'd be presenting an offer to a seller and they're like, well, what's your story? I'm like, I actually don't know. It just didn't make me look good. So I try to kind of get a well-rounded story. As a buyer's agent, I want to feed that listing agent a story, because maybe other buyer's agents haven't done that. Maybe the listing agent didn't do a great job. Maybe they're not as experienced. Maybe they don't know the stories of everyone. And so I can help them help themselves without them even knowing it, right? Did that make sense? Anyway, yeah. All right. Once you submit the offer, so you're in contact with them, right? Showing your intent, showing your buyer's commitment. Don't drive them crazy. I like texting. I like texting with the kind of text that don't expect a response, unless you need a response, unless you need an answer. But just, hey, I'm just keeping you updated. No need to text back. We're working on the offer now. You should get it in an hour. Let me know if there's anything else I should know beyond what we talked about. And then, all right, hey, just wanted to let you know, just sent off the offer, send a nice cover letter. Just give me a quick ping and let me know you got it. How many offers do you have in right now? Well, don't put a lot on their plate, but communicate periodically. Be that agent. Show them what it's going to be like during the transaction. Once you submit the offer, kind of the same thing. I'm just a texter. It's just my natural state. But whatever your thing is, calling the listing agent though on the phone a lot when they're dealing with multiple offers, not an awesome idea. You do need to have an initial conversation, but the more you can text, the better. I even like to text ahead, text for the call to talk, like, hey, I know you are slammed right now. I just need you for 3 minutes. Can we have a call in the next couple hours? Now, when people send that to me, I love that so much. Instead of blowing up my phone with it ringing when I'm trying to juggle, you know what I mean? You guys all know. You don't need me to tell you. All right, good. Okay, so cover letter. Often I have my buyers draft these up after the buyer consult. I explain to them, I give them some samples. I do encourage photos, which I'm going to talk about in a minute when you're the listing agent. When you're the buyer's agent, I do encourage photos. Again, I'm trying to give them the story because the listing agent may not, right? And it's really, it's a plea. I kind of coach them through that letter. And we write it ahead of time, and then they'll insert specifics about that house as we're writing the offer, right? If you're the listing agent, I don't always show those letters to my sellers. I think there's some fair housing issues. Family photos, families of yourself. I have my buyers submit family photos because I'm not breaking any fair housing laws as the buyer's agent. I can't control what the listing agent does. As the listing agent, I recommend to my sellers that I not show them those letters. I will use those letters to give a well-rounded story, but I don't want to ever put my seller in a position where, there could be profiling involved, right? With that said, on my personal houses, I send pictures of my family. I'm a big believer in the offer letter. We won multiple offers in the last house we purchased. We weren't even the highest offer. And it was just a really good reason. We waived inspection. I scared him a little bit on the inspection, and I gave them the confidence to choose us. We only put 10% down. We did not have the highest offer, but I think it was a combination of all of it. Right? Okay, bully offer. I want to talk about bully offers before we get kicked off here. Does anyone here know what a bully offer is?
Ahead of time, ahead of review.
So do you want to kind of walk everybody through the typical offer review date scenario, Lena, what that looks like?
So let's say you go live on Thursday, reviewing offers Monday. Somebody could submit a bully offer on Friday because they want you to not wait till Monday, right? So they'll go maybe way higher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So bully offers that's exactly right. You're bullying in ahead of the deadline. And if you've been in this game long enough, you've been burned as a buyer because you get that call or that text from the listing agent that says, you know what, I know offer review is Monday, but we've already accepted an offer. If you haven't gone through that, you probably will, right? So here's my comment about bully offers. It is not all buyers are candidates for bully offers. Bully offers have to be so substantially higher than list price. You have to have A+ buyers and or buyers that have lost 1 or 2 homes in my experience. So, I don't care what they say. I just saw that pop up. I don't care what they say. I don't care if they say they won't be reviewing offers ahead of time. If, you can be aggressive on behalf of your buyer. Here's the thing, like they can resubmit. That's happened to us a few times. We submitted a bully offer. We got turned down. We resubmitted. We actually got it for lower. So you can resubmit. There's no point in doing a bully offer unless you're waiving almost everything. And it is, depending on your area, it could be 15 to 20% over ask price. We just won one in Duval. It was listed at $775. They were on the verge of accepting a bully. Thank God my husband called at 900. He said, wait, don't do it. We wrote for 950 and they accepted it. And then he had to send a mass text to all 73 agents scheduled to view it that weekend. And after that happened, he said he's pretty sure they could have sold it for $1 million to $1.05 million. Which makes you wonder, by the way, is that the best decision as a listing agent to accept a bully offer? That's a different class. But I think, yeah.
Christina asked a couple times in here. She wants clarification on the letter and picture being a part.
We'll come back to the letter. Okay. We got to do this. Yeah, we'll come back at the end. So bully offers, because you're representing the buyer, and this is a class for writing offers that win. You need to do bully offers if you feel like you can get away with it. I just want to prep you guys that like it's not worth it unless they are really, really A+ and they're really educated and willing to go for it. They typically, in my experience, they have to have seen enough houses or lost enough houses. I mean, that's usually what happens, right? And we've won a lot of them. I'll admit it, and I'm not necessarily, I took one as a listing agent in December. I had a co-listing agent and we took one in December. I think it was the right decision. I felt yucky. I did not like that. For the listing agent, I don't like it, guys. It just feels yucky to me, but whatever. I'm representing the buyer in this moment, right? Okay. Let's go through here really quick. Talk about cover letter. Okay, that's it. Okay, let's come back to cover letter. That's pretty much it on negotiating. Oh, one last thing. Sorry. Remember, your job is to advocate for your buyer. And so when Christina and I were having the conversation earlier, your job is really to kind of say, hey, this buyer is strong. Usually on our emails to the listing agents, when we submit the offer, we make comments like, we have a transaction coordinator. We close all of our deals. We are awesome to work with. We get great reviews for our fellow agents. It's going to be an awesome transaction. Whoa, unicorn rainbows. So we're trying to kind of sell the process. In my mind, the way I look at it is, all things being equal, can I tip it over the edge? Because that's what happens a lot of the time. They're kind of trying to decide between two. It's like, can my reputation or can our admin, can things that we offer, can our track record, can the strength of my client, can any of that just tip it over the edge so that they would choose ours over someone else's? That's how I try to think in those moments. Okay, sorry. So what was the question, Christina or Lena?
It was, with that cover letter and the picture, if it's part of the offer as one PDF, she was saying she wanted clarification on, can you separate that from?
Oh, well, I want you to talk to your broker about it. Yeah. That's not part of the offer. Just because it's one PDF, where is there an MLS form for cover letter?
That's my thought too, is it's not written into the contract, but I had it on the other side saying my client submitted it as one document, that you have to present it. So I just wanted that.
Talk to Janine. Let's both talk to Janine before we take gospel word. But I have to tell you, Christina, unless it's listed as an addendum in the contract, I've been a managing broker for over 10 years. I don't remember reading anywhere that an offer is part of a,
That's my thought, unless they write it in there and say it's like Exhibit B, in which case I still want to talk to somebody about it. So. Yeah,
exactly. And the way I look at it, it's a great question, by the way, great question. And by the way, can we talk about, just not to go on a tangent, but Christina, can we talk about the agent who attaches the agent detail? I'm like, that's not part of the offer. Like, why are we doing that? I don't understand why they do that.
My previous brokerage required that.
Oh, I'm a big anti that.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons not to. Yeah,
there's a lot of reasons not to. Yeah, different class, right? Different class. Yeah. I've been a broker for too long. Like, you can get into the real estate weeds, like the geeky, nerdy real estate weeds, on the stuff. But,
yeah.
But what I tell my sellers is I say, my scripting is, I would prefer to not go through the cover letters until after we've made our decision. Are you okay with that? I kind of get a verbal agreement. A lot of the times they say, oh, I want to read them. I want to know. And what I say is, look, my job is to be that cold-hearted person that gets you as much money as possible. And it's my goal to take emotions as much out of this as we can. And because I care about you and I am here for you to hit your goal, I think it's better if we wait till afterwards. Of course, it's your choice. We'll do whatever you want. We're partners. I'll back you up in this. But my advice to you is that we don't get involved in the emotions behind this. We just kind of stick with, motivation and what's on the offer itself. So that's kind of what my script basically would sound like. So, all right, questions, comments. Oh, I talked so much. Sorry, that was like a lot.
Good stuff, Bia. Thank you.
You guys you learned at least one thing. I feel like you learned at least one thing. Okay, we'll get you the script.
One thing is definitely understating it.
That's a lot. That was a lot of talking. Do you guys have any questions though? Any questions? Is there anything you're secretly not understanding? This is your time. And
Are you sending the ABC script? Did I hear that right?
I'm going to send the ABC script and in the basics pie script, kind of a bullet point of that. Anything you guys are pretending to understand that you don't, seriously, don't be embarrassed. If you don't understand it, half the people here don't, I guarantee you.
Yeah, I have a quick question. I want to go back to the having a relationship with the lender and being able to prove that like you've spoken to the lender and that type of thing. So obviously as a new agent, like I personally don't have, relationships with lenders. So how do I know that my buyer, my buyer's not likely to have sort of this ongoing relationship with the lender? So what can I do to sort of establish that?
One of the gifts that we give you, there's so many values to being here at Ben Kinney, Keller Williams. And one of them is BKCO Mortgage. And I swear to God, I'm not trying to sell. Ben and I, it is so awesome we have it because you all have a relationship with a lender. I use them exclusively, literally that they're all I use now. And it's incredible because you actually do have a relationship, right? They are our in-house lender. You guys, if you are experiencing any issues, you can literally text me or Ben Kinney and we will intervene directly. It's better than most. It's why we opened the company, was for this conversation, was so that you could have. I apologize. I don't think we've done a good enough job at onboarding of really introducing them into being in relationship with you, and we're going to do better on that. But it is so important to get to know, a loan officer. Just call BKCO. So you're a new agent here at BKCO and you just want to have a relationship and just have a conversation with one of them. And then, the next time you talk to one of your buyers, there you go. Sometimes though, our buyers come to us and they have long time, relationships with lenders. And, admittedly for a new agent, a lot of the times with new agents, you're getting some first time buyers though, like they don't have that long-standing experience, and that's when you have to have the relationship and lead the process, right? But you'll get buyers who have a long-standing relationships with their lender, and that's okay too. I honor that too when they have a track record. I don't know if I prove it, Chaz, as much as it's just kind of all weighed on the relationship as a whole. So. Great question. This is your time. Any other questions where you guys are like secretly pretending to know, but you don't?
So I have a question.
Hi, Jerry.
With regards to the pictures, how does that not encroach on fair housing? Because let's just say the seller has an unbiased, toward a certain racial or ethnicity. And once they see the photo, they're like, oh, well, we're not going to accept that offer now, or something like that. How does that not play into it?
Were you here earlier and we were talking about this?
I may have missed parts of it.
Yeah, we definitely went into detail on that. I would say the short answer, though, is that when you're representing the buyer, it's not really your problem to monitor that. Your only job, is showing a picture of your clients. It's fine. On the listing agent side, I actually don't show those letters because I think it does potentially, I'm worried about it, for my sellers, and I want to protect my sellers, right? So we're not talking about that here. What we're talking about is you representing buyers, and you can submit an offer letter. It's not part of the offer. And so, your job is to do whatever it takes to get the offer in. I think we're recording this, Jerry, and you might want to listen. We talked about that for a good 5 or 7 minutes, and it's a good conversation, and you can listen to it on replay for sure.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Anything else before we, okay. Sorry, I talked a lot today. It was a lot, but hopefully this helps. So my only favor I ask you on these is keep us posted, because it's really cool. It makes it worth it for Lena and I when we get those emails and those texts and you say, hey, we used something you said. Are you here? Susie from Marysville, are you here that sent us that awesome open house email? Are you here? We got the most beautiful email, and she had pictures, and she set up water bottles. And anyway, she did everything we said. It meant a lot that she took the time to send that email. So thank you guys all. We will see you in 2 weeks on the buyer consult, right, Lena? Is that what it is?
Oh,
I think it is. I'm pretty sure it's buyer consult.
I think because we swapped it.
Okay. All right. Cool. And my email, by the way, is via@benkinney.com, and my name's spelled really weird. It's VIJA. So I think it's buyer consult.
So it is lead generation 101. Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. Fundamentals and outline of a buyer consult.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's buyer consult. Cool. Get ready to role play, Lena. We have to practice next time.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Jordan, that bookshelf, I just die every time. Okay, bye.